if you've been using Telegram, you might want to take a look at what you've been doing, because the founder, the Russian Pavel Durov, just got taken into custody in France.
Telegram is one of the securest services out there, and consequently within private chats, criminal organizations have made use of it in order to run their business, and the French have pulled them up on that on the charges of facilitating that. Because
unclear what they're charging him with. It sounds like they're just holding him right now for basically failure to moderate activity on the platform. Those of you not familiar with Telegram, it's now the 7th largest social media app in the world, behind Facebook, YouTube, WeChat, TikTok, and Weibo or something, WeChat, and WhatsApp. But Telegram's thing is having these groups. So you could join a group where you and 30 of your friends trade investment advice. But of course there's photos of women or photos of underage. There's scamming going on, all the stuff that's going on all the social media. And speaking of major arrests in social media, Andrew Tate 2 days ago was taken into custody again. He was released, but the Romanian organized crime came into his house, and he has a new set of charges.
They first threw us in f***ing jail. When they first put us in there, you're all running around saying human trafficker. None of you said, where's the evidence? Where's the proof? Where's the pictures? Where's the videos? None. 3 years later, they do the same
The story of Andrew Tate, if you really get into it, is so interesting. At the end of this month, BBC has a doc called The Man Who Groomed the World about Andrew Tate coming out. And you could have problems with the way they did the doc or whatever, but the Andrew Tate phenomenon is extremely interesting. At one point about 18 months ago, he was the most Googled person on planet Earth. He's currently on house arrest. They took more of his cars yesterday. So 2 days ago they raided him. Yesterday they took some of his cars, him and his brother. He of course has been out on bail for, I don't know, going on a year now, for basically running, well, what he's being charged with is the component of what he was doing probably before he got famous, which is the Loverboy scam. He talks about it. You meet women online, you talk them into webcamming for you by making them think you're their boyfriend, and you take all their money. Now, the easiest person to con is someone who's looking for something for nothing. Schemes to get over on men. Well, then there's other men who get over on them, because if you're looking for something for nothing, you're roped into doing something for somebody else for nothing yourself.
PhD is a pimp and hose degree.
So the recruitment process is, you message them on Instagram.
I was contacted by Andrew Tate, the older of the Tate brothers, 3 years ago when I was just 16.
Daria was 16 when she says she received a private message on Instagram 2 years ago from Andrew Tate's account. It read simply, Romanian girl, followed by a strawberry emoji.
What do you inbox the woman? I live in Bucharest, Romania. That doesn't matter if I'm in London, Bucharest, Moscow, anywhere I am. I just say Bucharest question mark, or Moscow question mark, or London question mark. Sometimes, because like I said, intrigue, I'll put a completely pointless emoji on the end. Some cherries, or an orange, or a strawberry.
I asked around to my other friends and my classmates, who were also 15, 16 at the time, and a couple of them also told me they received messages.
So I messaged her, she's like, I'm only 16. I was like, give a fuck. Not about me.
It was a pretty well-known fact that he had kind of a network of young girls.
So Tate used to sell a course called PhD, Pimp and Hose degree. Of course, he's dropped that terminology, but something really interesting, I know you guys have heard of his War Room, or if you haven't, the War Room, you could pay $5,000 and be part of this secret society. He uses all these terminologies that make people think they're important. I remember I once asked a girl that kind of moves in and out of, well, I guess she came to LA as an escort, and she would do other stuff and not being sometimes, and I was like, well, how do you get, like, because she was someone with a college degree and like wasn't like a streetwalker or anything, and she said, well, You know, it starts off, you go to like, if you ride around in a fancy car and you go to a hotel room and they tell you how pretty you are and they take you to the club and they get you some clothes and they make you feel really good about yourself, and then, you know, maybe you smoke a little weed or you do whatever you do, and you know, and some guy comes and they start you off with probably relatively normal guys, you know, guys they might not mind doing stuff with. And it's basically either they've given you a taste of this luxury lifestyle, they've complimented you, and you can either do what you need to do to keep living that life, or you can say, nah, it's not for me, and go home, which interestingly is exactly the same pattern that I've had. I remember when I was young, a guy involved in some organized dope man activities in Detroit told me how they got the young hitmen. So they go down, that's his words, we go down to the projects and you find a 17-year-old out there looking tough and poor, pick him up, buy him Adidas tracksuit, ride him around in the Benz, get him a steak, you know, a couple days of that type of life. And then you go somewhere and you put a GUN in his hand and you say, see that guy right there? Put 2 in his head. Or go back to the projects. So a typical control pattern, expose people that are looking to live a lifestyle that's beyond what they would have, that they would be able to earn through a job, give them a little taste of that, and then say, oh, you got to be a escort to keep doing this, or you got a webcam, or you have to engage in other types of crime. Now, specific to Andrew Tate, a fascinating subplot of his, like I was saying about that War Room, you should really watch the Vice doc where this guy goes to Romania and he meets a bunch of people in this war room. Now, one guy that's in it, and they try to kind of keep raps on, though they don't hide his existence, is they call him Iggy Semmelweiss, but that's not his real name. His real name is Miles Sonkin, and he actually lives here in LA. And Matt Shea, the documentary filmmaker, proposes that Sonkin is sort of the person behind Andrew Tate. Andrew Tate met Sonkin, as best we can tell, in like 2018, and Andrew Tate, who was already probably doing, or was successfully doing the webcam stuff, but he went to the next level.
This is the war room of Andrew Tate.
Calls himself the master of spells and shadows.
As the wizard in the war room is someone who grew up in Chicago. His mother was a psychic, according to one of Sonkin's family members, or someone purporting to be his family member, who that Shay got on the phone. He was in several, 2 of the big Indian cults of the 80s, Rajneesh and Babajan, whatever, 2 of the big Indian cult guys of the 80s. So he came through this cult stuff. He took classes in neuro-linguistic programming, that's like using words to train people. Well, of course, words are what get people to do stuff, but speaking to people in that command and control way, and training people like Pavlovian dogs to do your bidding. So Pavlov was a Russian scientist, and his most famous experiment is he would feed a dog and ring a bell. Ring a bell while he's feeding the dog. Ring a bell, give him food. Ring a bell, give him food. Then he noticed if you just rang the bell, the dog would start salivating even without the presence of the food. You would come, and then you could, if you were rewarding the dog with food, so you'd ring the bell and then get the dog to do a task, say push an object around, and then reward him with the food. After a while, you could ring the bell, they would salivate, and then they would do the task, and you didn't have to give them the meat. Sometimes successfully used. Many people have attempted to use it on humans. It works a little bit here and there. But Miles Sonkin was a big proponent of this. He's the guy that sends you your reading list when you join the War Room, Iggy Semmelweiss. Now, what's interesting, if you've been following this Tate stuff, of course, different women have said Tate has them get his name or symbol tattooed on them. Of course, we know pimps do that all the time. Slave owners used to do it as well. It's also something that gang members do. Roommates and friends with the Kappas, when I was in Michigan, they would get something, they got whatever their sign burned onto them. The Q dogs would get the big horseshoe, marking your body, obviously as a way to show your allegiance. But if it's a pimp or a man or someone controlling someone else and having you do it, that's a control mechanism. And speaking of control mechanisms, this is what I want you guys to think about. Not that any of you are a victim of unscrupulous woman, but remember that a pimp or a guy using women, he really is using the women to get to you. Maybe not you, but to men. Because men are the ones with the money. He wants to control the woman to control the men. And the very same techniques you're trained by Iggy Semmelweiss and others in the War Room, aka Miles Sonkin, of how to train women, are the same things they use on the men who join Andrew Tate's group. And in fact, they even used it on that documentary filmmaker when he came to do the doc. What are some of these techniques? I remember back years ago, and I used to get a kick out of going in the STRI club and meeting a chick in there and being her friend for free. If you catch one looking at you like she thinks you're cute, you start off, say, hey, buy me a drink. Give me a free dance. So you start off the relationship with you in charge of the power dynamic. So in Andrew Tate's training, they tell you, say on the first date with the girl, have her bring you something, like a special chocolate. So a bunch of girls have said that they did this with Tate, and also you're trained to do it in their pimp and hose degree. And when the Matt Shea, the documentary filmmaker, came to see Tate, Tate told him to bring him a certain chocolate if he wanted to interview him. So you're setting up this I tell you what to do thing from the start. And if it's a man with women, you're turning the whole normal relationship where men are supposed to chase women and bring them candy, which is mildly absurd and is a control mechanism on the woman's side. That's why I don't go on dates, we just hang out. We can't go on a date till after I touch down. Before that, we're just hanging out. But, so the very same thing they train you to do to the women, they're doing to the men, because, of course, the men is who they're getting the money from. They're training men to train women to work on webcams for them. So then, of course, they kick up. It can cost, I think it's $5,000 to join the War Room, but just like in Scientology, there's all sorts of upsells. Oh, you want to actually go to Romania and meet the rest of the War Room in Romania? Well, there's more money. You want to spend one-on-one coaching with Andrew Tate? There's more money. You want to hang out on the yacht with Andrew Tate and Tristan? Of course, there's more money. And if they're training you in things you're actually using and that are working, then why wouldn't you spend more money? So I found it interesting. Miles Sonkin, aka Iggy Semmelweiss, when you join, you get sent a reading list. I think this is for the component about training you, because Hustlers University so-called train you in crypto and drop shipping and all that, but I think the main thing is webcamming, because that's what Tate actually made a bunch of money at. So he does have a high skill set in that. They tell you to read read these books and read them in this order, and then email me. So he's doing to you the same thing they're training you to do to the women, and why wouldn't they? It's all about command and control. I have a friend I made, relatively recent friend, sometime in the last 10 years, and he'd tune out early when we were meeting and just having conversations. He did like a little intellectual parlor trick, pulled a little intellectual parlor trick on me, which was kind of odd. But then he felt the need to tell me he did it, which is sort of what I see Andrew Tate doing. So the kind of people that like to very precisely control people, like, oh, I'm going to trick you into doing my bidding. Often, because they're narcissists, they often want you to know about it, which is kind of probably what is their downfall often, right? It's not enough that he tricked you. The whole point is really, because he didn't get me to do anything, it was just something minor. It was to tell me, oh, I did something, I outwitted you. Now, as far as my friend, he has lots of positive traits, and it's, just some little odd thing he did, but I noticed it. And lots of people do different oddball things, and you notice it, but and it's interesting, I just used the word trick. Well, of course, a man that pays a woman money, that's a trick. And so, but the pimp or the controller tricks the woman into tricking men. So it's all this subterfuge and duplicitousness. Why you would think that you would go into business with someone who bases their relationship with you on trickery and that it's going to work in the long term, I don't know. So Andrew Tate back under arrest. Andrew Tate, of course, comes out and goes into damage control. He aggressively turns it into what a favor he's done for Romania. I've promoted Romania in the press. Ask anybody about Romania and they'll mention Andrew Tate. Well, not really. Maybe a kid. I mean, Romania is a country with thousands of years of history. Where does the Romania even get its name from? Rome. It was the farthest northeast outpost where you had really Roman civilization. Romanian is what? A Romance language. It's based on Latin. Romania has a history going back into the Roman Empire. Romania is a very old culture. It does not need, it existed before and after Andrew Tate, and I'm sure Romanians, just like Italians, would someone who really loves being Italian or Italian culture, or just, respects themselves as an Italian, would be highly upset if someone told them, Marlon Brando as Vito Corleone represents being Italian.
I've done nothing but say fantastic things about Romania endlessly. And when I did this, people would say to me, if Romania is so nice, if it's so safe, it's so beautiful, why has it got such a bad reputation? And I said, well, there's probably a few bad actors, a few bad people who destroy the entire reputation.
This behavior as if he's a hypnotist and a magician. He won't talk to you, he'll just look you in your eyes, walk in a big circle. He emailed Shay and said, oh, you're doing exactly what we want, after this expose about that made Tate look bad and some people's eyes came out. But of course, that's the tool of the pimp. You can watch, if you're not around pimps in real life, watch them on Soft White Underbelly. It's very interesting. All the prostitutes and all the drug addicts on Soft White Underbelly, not all, but almost all, will say, oh, this parent didn't love me, I had a bad childhood, this and that happened to me in childhood, my childhood was so bad. The pimps almost always say they had a good childhood. Oh, I wanted everything I wanted. My mother and father were great. They'll never admit to having had any problems in life, which is when they're dealing with troubled people, which is what a woman who finds a pimp and they go around to mid-level hotels around the country together and she gives them the money. She's troubled, she's desperate, she needs someone to look out for and take care of her. So she wouldn't want a guy that had a bad childhood and has the same issues as her. She wants someone that has it all figured out and came from a stable background. So the pimps will always say that their childhood was good, which is interesting when you think about it. even, you know, when prodded with further questions, it might be that, well, their father was a pimp and their mother was a hoe, and they'll still say, you know, it was great, I wanted her, got everything I wanted, it was great, everything is great, I never have any problems. When a girl leaves me, I pack her bags for her, everything is great for them. They never admit a problem, which is when you're dealing with weak people that have an unrealistic perception of life, like someone that would become a prostitute or a trick, or someone who pays to join a secret society. These are people looking for an angle, a way to cut the line, a trick, right? So just like the idea that you can order a beautiful woman on the phone or pick one up in a car or something and you're going to have some great sexual experience is kind of ridiculous. I mean, it probably happens sometimes, but there's a lot of hips, lips, and fingertips in professional sex work. I mean, a woman does not want to have sex with a bunch of strange men every day. Better to talk you out of your money, sometimes steal it. Many of them are not flatbackers. A high-end Las Vegas escort ring is probably more of a theft ring than it is an sex ring. Why wouldn't it be? It's inappropriate to be trying to pay strangers, strange women, like literally that you don't know at all, to have sex with you. But so what's gonna happen with Andrew Tate? Miles Salkin, aka Iggy Semmelweiss, is not in any kind of trouble. Iggy Semmelweiss wears a dragon ring, and I think you get like a dragon ring when you join the war room. I'm curious as to when Andrew Tate got his big cobra tattoo. Has Andrew Tate been marked by the control of Iggy Semmelweiss? Interesting to think. Andrew Tate often, if you watch him enough, I mean, I used to watch it a little bit, there's certainly a component. I mean, he's being real, but he's sort of acting as well. I think that he was making a lot of money doing the webcamming. He tells the story about getting involved in casino business with Romanian mobsters, and here we have some clips from a Romanian language doc where they looked into that, and at the beginning they thought, well, this couldn't be true, he wouldn't say that out loud, but they looked into it, and I'll put the link, you can watch their video, but in fact it does look like that's what he did or does. He is in business with like a Polish gangster that came to Romania and got a bunch of Romanian crime syndicates to work together to have these casinos, kind of a Kaiser Soze type of guy.
Andrew Tate zice că are cazinouri în România.
How do you generate your income?
The first thing is I own some casinos in Romania.
Mai zice că le deține împreună cu interlopi.
3 brothers, mafia guys, they own 400 casinos throughout Eastern Europe. I came up to him and said, look, I want to do a franchise with you.
These casinos are called Las Vegas casinos. They're known for having goons on staff to beat you up if you win too much. And Tate makes it sound so clever on his part. He said, oh, well, my business thing is these casinos would be in like neighborhoods where there's a Starbucks at. Now in a country like Romania, which is not poor, but obviously isn't like America, it's probably more like a Mexico income level, a Starbucks is kind of a semi-big deal. So he said he would, meaning it's in a decent neighborhood, but it doesn't look like where these casinos are the type that have Starbucks, according to this documentary that you can watch. He said his novel innovation was to buy an expensive coffee machine and have a female barista at the casino and say, come get a free cup of coffee, save the $5 you would spend at Starbucks and just gamble the $5 here. Sounds good, but apparently that's not really what was going on. The goons provided by Tate's Polish/Romanian gangster friends would beat you up if you won. That was one of the way they kept the profit margins high. And of course, everybody that goes and visits Tate, there's a lot of Eastern European tough guy security around, and this documentarian, what's it called, the DMS. So that's the name of the three Polish brothers, the DMS group. So they pay, I guess in Romania, just like you have narco-ritas in Mexico where they sing about the drug dealers, you can pay singers to sing about you in Romania. They have people singing about the DMS, and they have all these guys, the goons, with tattoos of DMS on their neck and their hands. So once again, they're doing the same thing to the men as they do to the women. Have you mark your body as a sign of loyalty and control. Very Jedi mind tricks type of stuff. When you get into that type of thing, the art of manipulation, even pickup artist stuff, I remember when those books came out and I would read them, they struck me as things that would work to some degree, but you'd have to be a certain kind of person to want to use them. I mean,
she was a Polish virgin. Man, it hurt her at every moment that I was doing it, but it felt good for me, so who gives
employed a series of very precise tactics to get a woman to like you. That would feel kind of weird, and not everybody's susceptible to that stuff. So it's along the lines of hypnotism, which is what, it's not hypnotism, but it's the same sort of thing where you're suggesting things to people or having them do things that's controlling their behavior. They're not quite conscious. They're conscious of what they're doing, but they're not conscious of why you're having them do it. They're just doing it. So when you meet someone and you tell them on our first date, bring me some chocolate, or hey, you buy me a drink, or get this tattoo, or make sure you show up by 7:05, not 7:06, you're testing to see if they're susceptible to control mechanisms right off the start. So my good friend has owned several real hip bars and clubs in downtown Detroit. He was like, shout out to Paul Howard, he owned like the first wave of like the white hipster stuff in Detroit like 20 years ago when I was first coming back. So I remember I saw he had a hypnotist at Cliff Bell's, this beautiful Art Deco bar he has downtown. If you're ever in Detroit, go to Cliff Bell's. So he had a hypnotist there. And I know how much he paid him because I used my buddy. He paid the guy $700. So the guy was good, but the point of me saying he paid him $700, he didn't have some vast budget where he's traveling from city to city with trained actors with him. So I'm pretty sure this was real to a degree. So he had a bunch of us volunteer to be hypnotized, and I've done this before. I'm totally not susceptible to hypnosis, and my friend's wife wasn't either. Incidentally, we both went to the University of Michigan, a global top 30 learning institution. But so first, they have you hold your arm up until they tell you to do something else. I stopped holding my arm up. Oh no, that's what it is. They have you hold your arm up, and then he looks at you and he sees if you kind of go into a little bit of a zoned out state. If not, he tells you you're out, you're out. So I always get put out in the first round of hypnotism. So then he has people pat on their head and this and that. So maybe it starts with 20 people. He got rid of me and my buddy's wife. Shout out to Sue. So there's still like 18 people left. He's certainly not paying these 18 people, and they're not part of his team. So he's getting them to do, sort of get him to fall asleep, get them to do some stuff with their hands, get them to stand up, move in a circle. Things that aren't that crazy but are a little bit weird, in which each successive step fewer people are doing them, which seemed totally real to me, that people exist on a spectrum of some people can't be hypnotized at all, some people can be a little bit. You're really just entering into like a state between dreaming and waking, where you can be told what to do and you'll do it, but you probably have to be someone who wants to be told what to do, I guess, right? So in the end, he was left with a young black guy and a middle-aged white woman, and he got them both to come on stage and do crazy stuff, dance like Britney Spears and sing. Is it possible the two of them were part of his team or something? Maybe. I mean, he wouldn't have the money to pay him. I mean, I guess he could have gave him $100 each out of his 700. So maybe. But like I said, there was about 20 of us, and 18 people made it to the second round, 12 to the third, 8 to the fourth. It was about 6 or 7 rounds before he got to the end. They all weren't being paid or part of his team. They were hypnotized and doing little actions, and that's what the research on hypnosis shows. So lots of people want to be controlled. Why are we seeing the rise of more and more of this stuff now? Why does it seem like pimping's making a comeback, all these things? Well, in a world that seems or is more out of control, the crumbling of institutions, people used to take pride in their high school. Do they anymore? Or some people did. Jobs, people aren't proud of their job. A lot of people on the bottom end of society aren't working at all. People used to be on bowling teams. Remember when I was young, older people in Detroit, it seemed like their whole life was, they would golf on the weekend and have a card party Saturday night with this certain set of friends, and they had their union meeting on Wednesday. People were a part of a lot of groups, and it gave their life identity. People are not part of those groups anymore. So on the bottom end of the society, you see people joining into gangs, pimp type things, different criminal setups, doing things they maybe wouldn't normally do. I wouldn't be surprised if that's how. Why are so many more young people identifying as enjoying the company of the same sex? A lot of them, just casually observing people like that, maybe aren't the most desirable people, or don't have the greatest social skills, or come from an economically disadvantaged background. So maybe doing certain things or just acting like you might do certain things gives you entree into a group that might, here, you can stay here, you can come hang out with us, we'll take you, someone's going to pay for your dinner, you're part of the crew. Interesting social control. Of course, the way that the Nazis, and I'm not equating anything in particular to the Nazis, I'm not being melodramatic, but I'm just to make an extreme example, due to, amongst other things, the very onerous war reparations terms that France and England imposed on Germany, where in fact German factories are being disassembled and driven to France, like to tear down the factory, put it on trucks, drive it to France, and give them the factory. Germany was a lot of social disorder. The word hyperinflation comes from that era in Germany, the late 20s, where prices would change from the morning to the afternoon. In fact, the custom in restaurants of writing the special of the day and its price in chalk on a chalkboard, that comes from the fact that if prices are changing every day like they were in Germany in the 20s, you certainly can't print out a new menu every day. It would cost money to print menus, first of all. So the writing a menu on chalkboards came from the era of hyperinflation in Germany. And that era where you had high unemployment, breakdown of social institutions, a bunch of soldiers who had lost a war that were not allowed to even be in the army, because part of the terms after World War I was the German army could only be so big. You had all these people looking they had lost all their group identities, their employment, military, their country was a loser, economy was bad, and now the brown shirts and the Nazi Party came along and gave them something to feel a part of. And Hitler, they say Hitler is the one who drew the swastika and decided the exact distance of the edge of the black circle to the red, a very powerfully designed symbol that seems that reversed swastika. Hitler was an artist, he did that himself, so he made a symbol. And he had these massive rallies, of course. For those of you interested in this type of stuff, you've seen Nazi rallies. You could see how a person would be get like a mystical experience and be ready to go off to war to swear fealty to Hitler. So we're in a time where social boundaries are breaking down. You can go on a thing, to circle back to Telegram, and from your home or your job, or you could be homeless, you can become part of a community. Oh, us 50,000 people are in this Telegram group. It could be something wholesome. We're people that are into ancient Roman history and we talk about that. Or it could be something not so wholesome. And of course, there's lots of scamming. And I'll also leave you with this on the point of always remember that if you watch a pimp, Andrew Tate, or just a pimp on Soft White Underbelly talk, and they make it sound good, and if you're the type of guy who's a trick, you're probably the type of guy that gets a kick out of seeing somebody else pimp a woman because you maybe haven't done that well with women or whatever, or that you feel like they victimized you. Remember, he's only pimping her to get to you because you're the one with the money. The thing about being a real pimp is not about women going out and flat bagging for $500. That don't add up to much. It's about building up a woman so she can attract men that will really think they're in a relationship with her and mortgage their house, send tens of thousands of dollars, whether they lie about a child being sick or whatever. That's where the real money is. It's interesting. I mean, as an experiment, if you're into this type of stuff, I mean, if you join any one of those foreign dating things, I mean, I don't see how, I mean, you'd have to have absolutely no experience talking to women to think that you were even talking to a woman. The way that the people talk to you on there, clearly it's a man, some Andrew Tate type man either doing it or directing traffic. And there's all these call centers, in effect, these scam centers for dating sites. They're run in Southeast Asia, they're run in Africa, they're run in the United States, they're run all over the place. Big money in that stuff because they can hit real licks. And some of the real pimps, if you see them get interviewed, I mean, they don't go into details, but they say, oh no, I can go into a bank and get tens of thousands of dollars. Well, that's probably because they got girls pulling out loans from a trick of signing for a loan, a small business loan, something like that. If you're going to do it in America, build up a girl on Instagram, make it seem like she has a business, or even I could put a little money into her business and she could have like a little cosmetics thing and you could go to the website and order it and she's got followers, but now all she needs is $200,000 to take it to the next level. A trick signs for it. Whew, we take that 200, we gone in the wind. Or we just run the business into the ground, shut down our Instagram. See you next time. So, I guess I talked about a few different things, mainly Andrew Tate. Very interesting phenomenon is all these little methods of social control. Be aware how people talk to you. If people don't seem totally organic, they may be trying to control you, and people do that, and women, of course, are very guilty of it. That's why I think a lot of men don't mind doing it back, but you shouldn't let women do it to you either. You should have organic relationships and friendships, but of course the world does run on control. We'll see if the control of the Romanian government in the end is gonna control Andrew Tate. But meanwhile, the guy that seems to have turbocharged Tate in his business probably helped consult Tate on how to move from a purely black market activities into that Hustler University thing, which was brilliant. And what Tate did, saying take clips of my content and repost them on your social media and put an affiliate link and you get $5 if someone signs up. Brilliant. I mean, Tate's a great marketer, or whatever team of people is behind them. So I don't take that away from them. And you know, if you're a guy who goes to a webcam, so that's why it's easy, very easy for Tate or anybody to not feel bad about this stuff. Because if you're a man who watches women on webcams, which is whatever, I mean, I guess it's entertainment, but then plus you think, oh, well, me and her got a special connection and she's going to be my girlfriend and I'm going to send her large sums of money. That's crazy. I mean, I feel sorry for you if you get work to a degree, but not really, because it also means you couldn't think these women are real human beings if you think you're going to look at them over a webcam screen while they do stuff to themselves and they're going to fall in love with you, and so you're going to send them some money. That's craziness. And the kind of men that go out really seeking to pay women, and you know, different stuff happens on the spur of the moment. I mean, of course, lots of people do lots of stuff. It's not that big of a deal. But like, I remember being in Costa Rica, which I like going to because there's not much of the SEX tourism, but there is a little. I was on a bus and some guys, some middle-aged guys who were there for that, were talking. And the way they were talking about it and about women was so unsexy. Like, the one he was like, yeah, I bought mine a color TV last year, but she said it wasn't big enough, so I'm done with Costa Rica. I'm going to the Philippines. Them girls are so poor, they're just happy to get anything. So, I mean, are you trying to have sex with women you're attracted to? Or are you trying to degrade women because they're poor? What is your real thrill? And I'll leave you with some clips of Andrew Tate and his brother talking about getting enjoyment from making women feel bad. Al Prophet does an update. Oh, I forgot to update you about Backpage. If you didn't know, Backpage shut down years ago, and those people were in ongoing criminal litigation. Michael Lacey is one of the guys. The 73-year-old who was behind it, he died before they went to trial. But their trial concluded at the end of 2023. Found not guilty of a lot of stuff, but found guilty of enough stuff that Michael Lacey is facing 20 years in prison for facilitating, the things that went on Backpage. I wonder what's going to happen with the Telegram guy. France charges him. Is the U.S. going to charge him as well? He's a resident of Dubai, the place that all the criminals are getting their residencies at these days. So social media and online has become the world's biggest RICO operation. So be careful what information you get sucked up into and what you join and etc. But that's an update on Andrew Tate. The Telegram guy is under arrest. Backpage guy, I just think they just moved back a sentencing date, but he's facing up to 20 years. So, Al Prophet, American Dope.